بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا منذرا الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. صدق الله العظيم.
صدق الله.
تفضل يا شيخ.
تفضل شيخ محمد. بسم الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. May Allah bless you all. May Allah protect you, and may Allah inspire all of us to be sincere and to be knowledge seekers and to be practitioners of whatever we learn. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also guide us among those who have guided and make us among those who are guided by the Quran and guiding others by the Quran, inshallah ta'ala. After we discussed many ideas and many aspects about the subject of reviving the Ummah, that's probably for the last 2 years or so, I don't see we are able to really diagnose the problem and then make good assessment and interpretation of the information we observe or we read or we studied, and that will enable us to move forward. It's discussion. Some of it is good ideas, some of it entertaining, some of it we have heard many times, and it is not having, it has a value, but it doesn't have a direction. So today we are going to start a different series, and those series a diagnosis of the current situation and how did we come to this place, to this phase, to these conditions that we are in. And from there, we'll ask the question, is there a way to do better or to get out or to improve or to change or to reform or to replace? So I think this will be a educational and practical information that we need all to discuss and share, though it is based on research and paper written by and books written by thinkers who are concerned about the current status of Muslims in the West and especially in America, and what is the scenarios for their future. We don't want to just predict. We want to at least base our understanding on some solid knowledge. So we start with the, as we discussed, either we are to follow the models that are presented in the Quran and Islamic history, where we seek guidance from those models and imitate and emulate and develop similar to those models, so we know we are going through the straight path. So the model, as we discussed many times, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, in establishing Kaaba and Mecca and Hajj and all these sacred places and religious practices and civilization on a ground that has no basic ingredient to establish a civilization. Or we know the other model that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have established in Medina, where he built a model that model was a practical form of Islam, and whatever in the Quran and translated into actions, into projects, into services, into connection, and into organization, into planning the future of the local community, the greater community, the humanity. So, from that, what we see today, big problem. The big problem is we establish those centers or masjids or institutions or organizations in this country, either because of individual ambitions. Someone has ambition and has a time and energy and able to collect resources and say, okay, this is the project I am going to do. Most of them are good projects, but they are not part of holistic strategy or holistic collective purpose or a strategy coming from a visionary leadership, or they are means to basically retain, reinforce the values and the identity of Muslims. It is all, we need a masjid, let's do a masjid, and we build masjid, and we are very well aware and have the skills to build masjid anytime, anywhere, with no limitation, with no problems. Build a school, build a school. Build a gym, build gym. Build youth center, build youth center, and so on and so forth. But for what? How? And what is the purpose? What are their functions? How they are integrated into the holistic views of the future of the Muslims in this country. As we see that in reality, all of these have been established well. There are many all over the country, but their functionality, their effectiveness is, you can say, very, very limited. And they are sealed with selfishness. We who are participating in those centers, we care about ourselves. We need a place to pray, and a place to have haqiqah, and a place to have wakira and walima and gathering and playing basketball or volleyball or other sports, or entertaining or night praying and so on and so forth. So it is mainly focused on ourselves in a way, not exactly the way that was clear in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the same time, it's really its effect even on its participant very limited. We are adults, we are immigrant, we are brought in a different mentality and culture. We want this to run that way, and otherwise we don't think it is Islamic, and then we start creating friction and fight and conflict and division and hindrances and so on and so forth. So we can see by looking to the current situation of the Muslims who have built those institutions, we see three major problems. You can say crisis, actually extreme crisis. Number one is the identity. Are you American Muslims or Muslim American? Are you here as a part of the larger society, or part of your ethnicity, or part of your school of thought, or part of your group and parties, or you are part of the this secular nation which you have decided by your free will to live in and benefit from the opportunities that is extended to you. Who are you? This is a problem and big problem, and Muslims incapable, incompetent, and skilled and not educated how to go about it. So everybody select one term and say, "Oh, who I am this, or I am this, or I am that," and go on and so on and so forth. To the point where you see, if you say Islamic society, you're gonna find all or majority of Muslim centers around the country called Islamic society. One 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 professor at Caltech in California came to some of these activities and said, Islamic center or Islamic association or Islamic society. It's immediately the word Islamic excluded then Islamic right away. So it is as American or as your neighbor or as your friend or as your teacher or as your relative. I don't have anything with this because it's already the name Islamic Society Association. So non-Islamic, it's not has nothing to do with it, or it is not focused nor concerned about others outside the Islamic faith and Islamic followers. And so he suggested, why we don't call it Muslim society? So we know there are Polish Muslim community or association, there are Italian association, there are Hispanic association, there are, and so we just get with the ethnicity Arab association, and used to have Ma, Maya, and so on and so forth. So maybe that will make it clear. I am Americans, you are Italian, you are these Polish, you are Hispanic, you are Japanese, you are. So we just identify ourselves by our ethnicity, and that will be fine. This country is a melting pot, accept all those ethnicities and tolerate them, and which is fine. But has nothing to do with Islam. This is not Islamic at all. Once you start identifying yourself with your ethnicity, then I don't know where is Islam is going to come up. Arabs, when they went around the world, they never identified themselves as an Arab. The enemies, the Orientalists, they call it Arabic civilization, Arabic conquest, Arabic history. But it was not. It was mixture of all human beings who adhere to one faith. And the common ingredient among all of them is the faith and the iman and the practice. That is number one, and this is a getting worse because what you tell the second generation, who are you? And many of them already decided, okay, I am not going to go by the ethnicity. I'm going to say I'm American, period. Nothing add to it, nothing before it, nothing to connect to it. This is who I am, and this is the culture I know and grow in, and I think that way, and I think it is good, and I think it is the best, and so on and so forth. And so this is a total failure if we cannot come up with a clear definition to who are you, then you cannot absolutely lead or guide or mentor or coach the second generation anyway, and they are going to accept it not. The second uh, crisis, challenge, problem, maybe we can turn it around to be a opportunity, which is purpose. What is your purpose? As we just said, you build the masjid and the school and the gym and so on and so youth center. What is the purpose? It is just for those Muslims comes once a week and they don't have time to be engaged whatsoever. They get space for themselves to practice their culture and their ethnic, their school of thought, their understanding of way of life, and that's the end of it. Then the purpose of existence just totally opposite direction of the purpose of existence of the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. Totally in the opposite direction. Uh, Now this is a big problem. What is the purpose of the existence of institutions, organizations? By the way, somebody went on and collected the mission statement of all of these organizations, and I think his name is Ihsan Bagbi, and he come to conclude make no sense whatsoever. Many people associated with those organizations don't know anything about it, never study or practice or use it as a guidance for themselves. It is written somewhere in the book, and that's the end of it. Or if there is a strategy training or training from somebody and so on and so forth, and that's the end of it. You are a Muslim, and you say this is my vision or this is my mission statement, and it is irrelevant even to the people who are leading the organization, to the activities of the organization, to the structure of the organization, to the planning of the organization. He said it's just beyond imagination that you can say yes. Many of them have official vision statement, mission statement. First of all, they are not coherent. And second of all, they are not consistent. And the third, they are not known nor practiced, adhered by the people of the organization. And not translated into regulations, into practice, into project, into training, into programs, into activities. They are not. They are just to be there, and that's the end of it. So that is a crisis. And the third crisis is leadership. And this is basically a leadership, the method that has been gotten to control us and to guide us. We just go from the big pool of human beings, especially influential, especially those who can contribute financially more, respected more, not absolutely relevant. Their skills, their mind setting, their leadership skills, their social skills, their networking skills absolutely has nothing to do with something called non-profit organization, religious organization, non-business organization. Actually, they are unclear. Everybody wants to implement. If his background business or she, they want to exactly run the organization like business wise. If he is a private business, he want it that way. If it is governmental, that way. If it is educational, that way. If it is health, that way. And some of them, well, this is what my wife or my husband said, and this is what we're gonna do. And so, to recruit leaders that are going to take the organization to the second level, they have to have relevant background, education, training, skills, and ability, competencies, awareness with all the nature of the Islamic world, the nature of the organization, the nature of American society, the nature of this connecting society, faith communities, and so on and so forth, and has vision, real vision, based on the awareness and based on the understanding to the Islamic work and Islamic background, so they can really plan something that is going to take us somewhere. The strategic planning of all, if not more, if most, if not all, these Islamic centers, institutions, organizations, exactly similar to those in the Muslim countries, where they are read one time and thrown away and never go back to or look into them or integrate them into the daily practice and operations of that organization whatsoever. It's in the book. Sometimes even we don't know where is it. Yeah, there are people that just don't have it. Even they don't know where it was located. And every group comes, they start from scratch because There is no continuity. There is no building upon. There is no start with the end. There is no review. There is no transparency. There is no evaluation. There is no editing by all means in ways that can basically correct the path of this organization. So this has been translated, those three crises: identity, purpose, leadership, in some practical point. And I'll say just number one. Number one, the Muslims, whether individual or group or institution or organization or centers or schools or whatever, socially isolation, in total isolation and disengagement. Muslims in this country do not participate in the community they live in, and no interaction with the neighbors, especially of the Islamic centers and institutions. Islamic center institution is just like, okay, there is over here and over the road, there is a Sprint building. Okay, this is business. People come 8 o'clock and leave 5 o'clock, and that's the end of it. It doesn't have to interact with its neighbor. This is a corporation looking for business. They don't have to have any, though some they do. They do some services. They do probably, in Detroit, Ford company pay the individual tax for the whole district and do the surface of the civic service in the whole, because they think this is good to pay back to the society and the neighborhood. Muslims do absolutely bring no value to their community, to their neighborhoods, to their network, to their places where they decided to live. And actually, they build barriers and build suspicion, build so many questions. And the media and the headline that is flaming headline and so on and so forth gets to the neighbors and build more questions and more suspicion about these centers. And this is no exception. The greatest Islamic center here called Darul Hijra, which is the biggest center in Washington, D.C. It's in absolute total isolation from its neighbors. They might do, or some other, they might do interfaith or collect the politicians or the people selected from all over the place, but has no impact whatsoever on their neighborhoods. And that is, so we do not live in the community nor participate that we are living in. Have built definitely walls, barriers, and put ourselves in total social isolation and disengagement. This is the practice. This is the practical aspect of problem number one: identity, purpose, and leadership. And so I think I can mention another one, and then we'll stop here and we'll continue next one. The second one, when you look to those organizations, as we say, they have been 10 years, 15 years, 16 years, they are in a state of stagnation. Muslim communities are busy and overly consumed in maintaining facilities and providing basic services and activities for less than 20% of their own Muslim population. I mean, fundraising. You go to the masjid, fundraising every turn, every word, every khutbah, every week, every month, every visit, every activity, fundraising. Okay, fine. Now, these resources, what is going to do? I never seen impact report. Muslims, they don't even know what is impact report. Though the businesses or the institutions or the government or the educational, if they get grant or if they get donation or if they got collected some money project or profit and so on and so forth, they issue every year impact report to exactly see how much of that resources and timing was making impact on the larger society. It doesn't exist. People, and also, honestly, if they need to try, if you are unable, you are not learned, you don't know the skills, how are you going to make an impact report? If you never heard of it, you never seen any of it, you didn't take classes, nor training, you know, it is not your background. You are not a business. You are not a leadership background. How are you going to make an impact report? So we take definitely the money from the community and we, well, give them numbers by the end of the year and say, here the budget, and that's the end of it. What is the impact? Can I show me? Is it measurable? It's 20%, 50%. So how many of that? How many of that? It's got to be, and it's got to be documented. And it's got to be there. It's got to be audited to make sure that impact is there. So you can call it really in a stagnation, but at the same time, it's just a black hole. What goes in, you never seen it again, anywhere in any form. Wallahu alam. Jazakumullah khair. And inshallah, we'll continue next week. May Allah help us, because only if you are really sincere and put things the way they are, with no flowering and seasoning, then we might be able to come up with idea. If it is a harsh criticism for every one of us, including myself, this is what we have been doing. It is wrong. We must change it, and we are here to change it. That is what is our goal. Wallahu alam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, barakallah fiqh. It's very educational, mashallah, lecture. And I guess we need to start to measure ourselves first, then we can measure our society performance. It's very true, Sheikh. Things you cannot measure, you cannot improve. So we need to come up with those measure tools and have them in our life, in our community. But inshallah, we start from here. So we open the session, inshallah, for question, addition, objection.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. 1 second, give me 1 second. La ilaha illa anta.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Marhaban.
Hayakallah. I have a point, Sheikh, here. So we are Muslims, alhamdulillah, in this country, and we may have failed to some extent bringing the Islam to a broader audience in this country. But still, we are, Sheikh, present in this society, and when we walk as Muslims, like say muhajjabat, they walk into the street, people can tell there are Muslims. So that triggers in people questions, why those dressing like that, why they're acting like this. So we're not isolated per se. We still bring some color to the society to ask people to think about what we are doing here. That's the first one. The second point is that, Sheikh, I am here with my wife, and you know she's a revert, but we also have her friend, which is also a revert, and her name is Michaela. She's a revert here in Mobile, Alabama, and it's it's kind of unique situation to see a white revert in Mobile, Alabama, in the South. And she would have to ask you a question as well about her role and what the revert should do. But is it okay, Sheikh, to start saying, "Oh, I am a Muslim revert"? Is that like the thing you were trying to say? We should not do? We are not a group of people. We are just the Muslims. We are not reverts. We are not born Muslims. We are not Arabs. We are not Bengali. We're just Muslims. That's how we identify ourselves. I feel like, Sheikh, America or Muslims in America are heading to the point where the barriers between Muslims themselves are gonna disappear. Like there's gonna be the melting pot for Muslims, and that's gonna happen maybe in the generations to come. Not in our generations, the one who came from overseas or from Asia. they still feel the gravity towards their background, their culture. But if you think about generations to come, they feel like there is nothing attaching them to back home. They would feel like this country is theirs, and they would feel like we are all the same. And that's where I think Islam should start integrating in the society more than what we see right now. So before I give the mic to the River sister here with us, her name is Michaela. I want also to hear your opinion about what I just said.
Jazakallah khair. You already answered your question. Okay, I'm talking about institutions. They are in total stagnation. Okay, as an individual, there is no doubt about it. We are having greater impact than our institution, than our center, than our masjid. As an individual, because we are part of the society and there and there. So definitely, with no doubt about it, those reverts or whatever da'wah achieved in this country because of the individual's impact, relationship, and presenting the model, especially the woman with hijab, but not the institution. I'm looking for the impact of the institutions in presenting the deen to neighbors. I know you can talk in the media, you can talk in the program, which is in the air, nobody listen to. No, you need to start grassroots from your neighbors. How much they know who are you, and how much they trust you, and how much they don't trust you, and how much they are willing to claim this is our center, not Islamic center. This is our community center. So you are correct. As an individual, those from their jobs, student in the school, in the street, and at many places, as an individual, all those impacts are coming from individual relationship and individual effort, but not institutional. Though we give our resources to the institution, that is number one. And number two, I think the first we should identify ourselves as a Muslims. I'm Russian, I'm Italian, I'm American, I'm a Mexican. I am. That is come later. Like people come to ask about Islam, then if we recognize they speak Spanish, all right, we say here we have somebody as a model for them. How did he go through? Here, brother Michael, he's so and so and so. You can associate with him. They can feel comfortable and they can discuss furthermore and they can build personal relationship. That should be only next. At the first, you should give the impression, paint the image. Muslims are all kind of people, all kind of languages, all kind of colors, of all kind of culture, and all kind of background, universal. So wherever you go, I am a Muslim. If they say, "Oh, you are white, how you can be Muslim?" Then okay, or you are this and that. But it shouldn't be at the beginning. Wallahu alam. That's my opinion.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Actually, this is something I think about a lot. So, being American Muslim, I know you just said don't say like your ethnicity, but this is just who I am, right? So, being this person, I just came to Islam. Like, something I notice is I always seeing like masjids being kind of segregated. Like I'll feel like, okay, this is an Arab masjid, like this is mainly Arab people, or like one other masjid will be like South Asian people, and that was something kind of shocking to me. But that's just my first insight. So then I know something common among reverts, or even this can relate to the second generation Muslims that were born here and maybe their parents are from overseas or something. They like feel they have to like like leave off their own culture. Like imagine me, I feel like I have to just adopt Arab culture because I'm a Muslim, you know. But I feel there has to be a way where you can in a way like purify the good things from your own culture and still be a Muslim, but just taking the good parts from your culture, and that's how you still integrate with the people around you. Like you leave off the haram obviously, but there has to be a way. You can't just completely, I can't just leave off my identity, you know, just because I
Yeah,
become Muslim. So I think
yeah,
that's a really
yeah,
good step
yeah.
too.
But very good observation. One second, either you believe Islam is universal for all humanity or for only certain culture. There are people both in our mind. If you are not like the people from Arabia, then you are not a Muslim. And sometimes they were imposing. You have to have a thobe, you have to have a turban, you have to have this, you have to have this. These are people saying Islam is not universal. So look at the history when Islam went to outside Arabia, went to Egypt. Well, people of Egypt on their own Arabize themselves and adopt the Arabic culture in their own. There was no objection. But when you go Muslim, went to Turkey. Turkey kept their culture, their language. Went to Pakistan, went to Indonesia, went to Malaysia, went to India, went to Spain. But you come exactly the way you said. You reserve, you retain your culture that is consistent and has no opposition to the Islam that you. This is why you can say Islam is universal. Can apply to have to change the basic of your culture, so long as you said if it is not haram, if it is not shirk, if it is major things. That's all, and that's the only way really to tell people Islam is universal, and it is universal. Otherwise, Islam is a machine to produce blocks, copies of which one another, which is not absolutely that way. And that is good idea that really the assumption your culture, most of it is fine with Islam. There are things, few things in the matter of aqidah or in the matter of manners or in the matter of transactions, very, very limited things, or in the matter of food that are not basically in consistency with Islam. This is the one that you are to eliminate. Actually, Sahaba, they used to be in Jahiliyyah, just like any revert. And then when they became Muslim, they took this attitude that somebody saying, okay, they abandon everything and they have to ask the Prophet, what is that? What is that? Then he finally said, no, we cannot go through all of this. Assume what you have is correct unless we notice it is inconsistent or some revelation comes or some concept being bring, then we'll tell you leave that alone. You know, this is in the Quran where Sahaba were thinking running in Hajj between the mountain of Safa and Marwa. That was practice of Jahiliyyah. So they said, okay, we are going to make Hajj without it because practice of Jahiliyyah. Allah revealed a verse in the Quran. Not all practice of Jahiliyyah is something that you remove. It is integrated into Islam and it is fine and it is required by Islam that you run between Safa and Marwa exactly the way the Jahiliyyah and the Arabs and the idol worshipper used to do. So the general assumption, majority of your culture is fine. And that's why Muslims feeling good and have space to live here. There are few things, they are limited things, things can be counted that are in matter aqidah and akhlaq and transaction and so forth. That is the thing that you should avoid. And you are Muslim, I'm definitely American Muslim. There is no doubt about it. Wallah.
جزاك الله خير يا شيخ بارك الله. All right, any more questions inshallah?
Assalamu alaikum. I did raise my hand. Did you see that?
Sorry.
Alaikum salam. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. One thing I noticed about the point of the mission is that most of our mission and is driven by our insecurities as parents or as people in the Western world. We are most of the time driven by the fear and the insecurity about the change that could happen to our kids. We don't want them to be influenced. This is what I notice is mostly, which is okay, I mean, to some point, but we never, I mean, it's never about the influence we can make. And especially, we are here for a reason, for da'wah. So I noticed that it's not really the mission. The mission is to protect our kids from changing or being changed or influenced. It should be us influencing. We should be the upper hand. We should be more confident. And of course, this takes more understanding and stronger faith. So what do you think, Sheikh?
Jazakallah khair. That is another point we might come and discuss later, but you hit the nail the right way. Awareness and engagement, we are defensive in everything we say or do or present. It is all defensive. See, you're already feeling the guilt, or you are already bombarded with accusation and so on and so forth. You cannot make doubt. If you are not confident and open-minded and aware of the society around you and engaged in the society around you, and on top of that, so awareness is not there, engagement is not there, confidence is not there, we are defensive, and some of these institutions become corrupt, and no one dare to say there is corruption. And actually many of these Islamic centers is now filled up with corruption. And so it's needed either to renew, reform, or replaced. It cannot continue that way, as you stated very well. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, sister. Okay, any more question? One more time, inshallah. Any more questions before we conclude?
Well, I would like everybody tomorrow to be in the class, because we are going to finish and give the summary of Surah Al-Furqan. We are going to talk about the attribute qualities of Ibad al-Rahman, and how are these qualities and attributes a practical answers to every issue that non-believer have put forward in the whole surah. So tomorrow we are going to make the connection of these qualities of Ibad al-Rahman to all their rejection and objection and suggestions and rejection of the Quran or the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the religion. This is the practical form, and I think if you miss all the classes, if you are tomorrow there, or you can listen to it in your convenient time, you will have the holistic view of the whole surah and how it is connected, and what does it mean, this Ibadur Rahman. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah.
طيب, we conclude, inshallah. We are anybody have question? طيب, I think
جزاكم الله خير. Thank you very much.
Jazakumullah khair. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Barakallah.
Inshallah.
We'll inshallah conclude, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you all, and give Sheikh Muhammad the wisdom and power, and to continue inshallah with us. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. We'll see you tomorrow inshallah.
إن شاء الله.
شكرا. جزاكم الله خير.
إن شاء الله.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.